Pokemon is my favorite series of all time, and I have a special ability of making people angry. So naturally, I'm going to be doing a tier list of the mainline games. So starting things off, the games that started it all, Pokemon Red and Blue. I'm not going to be too harsh just because it's old. It's iconic for a reason. It's what jump-started this whole franchise. And Pokemon Red is my very first Pokemon game. But there is no reason for me to ever go back and play these games. So I'm just going to be putting that in C. Pokemon Yellow, just an enhanced version of the Kanto games. You know, more in line with Ash's journey since you start with a Pikachu and you have the ability to get all 3 starters. It is better than Red and Blue, but I'm still going to be putting that in C because again, there's no reason for me to ever go back and play these games. Gold and Silver. Alright. So, you know, great games. New journey on a new region with new Pokemon. And you can go back to Kanto, so that's 2 regions in 1 game, which Game Freak is still apparently struggling to do that, making 2 regions in 1 game. These games definitely deserves all the flowers that it gets, but even ignoring the technological limits that these games had back then, these games still had issues. The Pokemon variety, the Pokemon that you encounter on each route, I feel like there's just no variance there. The Pokedex isn't that strong. I think it has one of the weaker starter trios out of the entire franchise. I like the Cyndaquil line. Cyndaquil's cute. I like Typhlosion. Totodile and Chikorita are both also cute. I just do not care for Feraligatr or Meganium. Also, I get that Johto is connected to Kanto, but there is just no reason for them to be relying so heavily on Kanto. For example, here's a list of the gym leaders. Falkner, Pidgey, Pidgeotto. Obviously, he's a flying type. Where's Hoot Hoot or Noctowl? Morty, Ghost type gym leader. Where's Misdreavus? Tyrogue and Hitmontop were introduced in this region as well, but Chuck doesn't have them. I'm not gonna harp too much on this because I'm sure your favorite Pokemon YouTuber has already gone in depth of why the Johto games aren't good. And I'm not saying that they're not good. I like the Johto games. I just think that they are very overrated. And part of the reason why I have such a disdain against these games, I have seen so many people talking trash about all these other Pokemon games, and then you turn around and they say that their favorite Pokemon game is either Gold, Silver, or Crystal. For over the last 25 plus years. I understand having nostalgia, like, you know, these games are your childhood, you've had so much fun. Having 2 regions in 1 game, especially a Game Boy game, that's insane. But picking Gold, Silver, or Crystal over HeartGold and SoulSilver, when these are clearly the definitive way to experience the Johto games, is insane. Anyways, similar with the Gen 1 games, I have no reason to go back to these games, so C. And then Crystal, same thing with Yellow, just above the original games. Now, I was talking all of this trash about this whole nostalgia thing, and then I'm gonna turn around and tell you that the Hoenn games are my favorite games. Hoenn is easily my favorite region. I think the region itself has a great design. That might just be the Filipino in me favoring the tropical environment. I think it has the best Pokedex variety in the entire franchise. Some of my favorite Pokemon are in these games. Blaziken is my favorite Pokemon, and Flygon is a very close second. If you take a look at my name, Furai is from Furaigon, which is just the Japanese way to say Flygon. The music is also great. Playing the Hoenn games while watching the advanced generation of the anime, it is just fond memories from childhood. One of the main issues I see people talking about this game though are the missing Pokemon, or there's a lot of Pokemon from the Kanto games or the Johto games that are missing from Hoenn. But for me personally, I don't see that as an issue. Whenever I play a Pokemon game, I always try to use new Pokemon introduced in those games on my team, at least for my very first playthrough of that game, which from what I've seen is a big reason why older Pokemon fans don't like the newer games, because they can't catch a fucking Dragonite in base Sword and Shield. Anyways, I'm putting Ruby and Sapphire in B. I'm easily playing Ruby or Sapphire before any of the games in C tier. That being said though, there is 0 reasons for me to play these games when there are better versions that are readily available for me to play. For example, Emerald, S tier. Fire Red and Leaf Green, the definitive optimal way to play the Kanto games, A tier. Diamond and Pearl. Sinnoh is easily my second favorite region, very close with Hoenn. I think the Pokedex is also one of the strongest in the series. Some people are gonna say,
oh, but there's only a few fire types.
Me personally, I'm always gonna be picking Infernape as my starter, so that's no issue to me. And there's also the meme where everyone's team looks the same, but I mean, come on, can you blame anyone for picking that team? Those Pokemon are all peak. I know the issues that base Diamond and Pearl have, you know, the games are a lot slower. Yeah, I can't think of the other issues that people have. But I'm definitely playing Diamond and Pearl before base Ruby and Sapphire. But again, there's 0 reason for me to go back and play those games because there are better versions for me to play. For example, boom. Alright. HeartGold and SoulSilver. I really do love these games. I mean, I'm just a big Pokemon fan, so I can't really hate on any of them.
Except for one.
I'll just admit it, I am a detractor. If I see people overhyping a game, I'm just gonna go in the opposite direction and overhate the game, which is what happens a lot with HeartGold, SoulSilver, same with the Gen 2 games. My main issues is, I'm not gonna go too in depth because I'm sure this is already a tired conversation that's been around the Pokemon community for many years. The level scaling, it's abysmal. The over-reliance on Kanto and the Pokemon variety, it's boring to me. The region itself, beautiful. 2 regions in one game. Game Freak still can't replicate that for some reason. That being said, I am putting this at the top of a... No, that's a lie. I'm putting it in S. Like, it is still a great game. They definitely deserve the hype. I am just a hater. Anyways, Gen 5 games. Admittedly, for the longest time, I've been a big Gen 5 hater, mainly because, again, I'm a detractor. I see people overhyping these games, and I'm just, no, stop. The story, everyone loves the story, and I'll admit the story is great. For a Pokemon game. No, I'm just being a hater. The story is great. The game looks great. It's the pinnacle of the pixel sprite art. The music is peak. Like, even while being a detractor, I do think that the Gen 5 games have the best music, or at least some of the best music in the entire franchise. The character designs, trainer designs, I think they are all clean. They all look amazing. But the big issue for me are the Pokemon designs. I don't think there are many Pokemon in the Pokedex that I like. I've seen arguments where people say that Unova has the worst starters in the series. I personally think Snivy, Tepig, and Oshawott are all really cute. I did used to hate Superior and Samurott, and I still do not like Samurott. I like Superior a lot more than I used to, and Emboar, I know there's a lot of hate for Emboar, but I honestly kind of like his design. Outside of the starters, out of the 150 plus Pokemon introduced in Unova, I like maybe like 20 of them. And while the games do have a great story, immaculate music, top tier character designs, I think for a Pokemon game, the Pokemon designs are like the most important thing. Am I crazy for that? Anyways, there is a timeline where I would have put these games in D just to be a shithead, but after reading the Unova arcs in the Pokemon Adventures manga, my opinion has definitely swayed. The supplementary media, you know, the anime, the manga, I think those are the only ones that Pokemon really has. Those definitely influenced my opinions on these things for some reason. I don't know why. That's just how my brain works, I guess. But yeah, the Pokemon Adventures manga definitely boosted my opinion on these games. I am putting them at the top of A. Like, I could see myself definitely playing these games over Fire and Leaf Green. I also don't want to have too many games in S tier because that should be just best of the best. And I know I just pissed some people off by saying that. That could change later, but I think that's where they're gonna be at. X and Y. Normally, I'm the type that easily falls for recency bias, but even after playing X and Y, those games were rough. ORAS. I've already mentioned earlier, Hoenn is easily my favorite games. I wasn't a fan of some of the changes they made, but they also have added quality of life upgrades to the game. People can complain all they want about the whole EXP share for the entire Pokemon party all they want. I'm of the opinion that it is a change for the better. It eliminates grinding. If you play any other JRPG besides Pokemon, those games will most likely have the entire party gaining XP for every enemy you beat. And there is definitely an argument that these games could be the most optimal way or the most definitive way to play the Hoenn games, but nostalgia is definitely beating my ass. I think I'm definitely gonna play Emerald before I play ORAS again. I want to put it at the top of A, but at the same time I feel like the Gen 5 games are still better. I think I'll leave it there for now, and I'll just go back and see. Now, if I didn't get any hate before, if I didn't piss anyone off yet, this next part probably will. So obviously the Sun and Moon games are very divisive. People have mixed opinions on these games. I've heard really good things, especially about the story about these games. But then there's also the negative things. You know, a big one being the game is very hand-holdy, a cutscene every 3 steps that you take. Now, notice how I said heard. That's because I have never actually beaten one of the Alola games. Yeah, I'm a fake fan. I just haven't found the time to play them, which is complete bullshit because I have definitely played the games that came out after it. My thing is, every time I try to start these games, I just get bored out of my mind, and part of it is the whole fucking cutscene every few steps. Not literally. I do think those claims have been blown way out of proportion. At least I think so. I'm still only at like the very beginning of these games. I am in the process of trying to play through all of the Pokemon games. After I replay the entire series, I might just redo this tier list, but I'm I think I'm gonna have to add another column at the very bottom. Alright, moving on. Let's go Pikachu and Eevee. I'm just not a fan of the gameplay. I don't care for the whole Pokemon Go style of gameplay. I think it's completely boring. Having to use the Joy-Cons instead of a regular ass controller is so unnecessary. However, in my pants, I strongly believe that these are the best looking Pokemon games so far. Nothing has come close to beating them yet. The art style is immaculate. During my playthrough of the games, I have never ran into a single issue. Yeah, that's definitely gonna come up in the last few games. I think I'll stick these like, I think right there is fair. Sword and Shield, the Pokemon games that have caused many arguments. Shout out the tree. I'll be honest, I personally had a lot of fun on the Sword and Shield games. I have an ungodly amount of playtime put into those games for some reason. A big issue that people have is obviously the dex cut. I still do think that every Pokemon should be accessible within a Pokemon game. That being said, the Crown Tundra definitely saves the game for me. Now unfortunately that is a paywall. Without it, the base game, I 100% understand why people have the issues with the game. The exploration is extremely lackluster. Yeah, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. So I know these games got a lot of hate from the Pokemon community for being way too faithful to original Diamond and Pearl, which I completely understand. I still enjoyed my time with the games just because it was just, you know, a more modern exploration of Sinnoh, even though it was... I'm not going to go too deep into the whole chibi art style debate thing. I don't mind the chibi art style, but it didn't really feel modern. Whatever. Now I have seen some people go extreme with it and put it at the bottom of their tier list, even though personally I think that they should just be right next to Diamond and Pearl because they're pretty much the exact same games. Legends Arceus. I know a lot of people have it as their favorite Pokemon game. Everyone is saying it's the best in the series. But yeah, you see where this is going. I haven't beat the games. I got bored of it. The issues that Game Freak has with creating a Pokemon game for the Nintendo Switch just continues here, because when I was playing the game, that shit was stuttering every fucking 10 seconds and I could not stand it. Some of the Pokemon introduced were kind of cool. Ursaluna was kind of cool. I still like Ursaring better. Cleavor was kind of cool. I still like Scizor better. I do like the time travel aspect, or more importantly, the Isekai aspect, because I love me my Isekai trash. All of that, like I already said, haven't beat the games. I'm sure it'll go right to the top. Well, nothing's ever gonna beat Emerald unless they make a Legends Hoenn game. Now, the most recent games. So personally, TBH honestly, I do think these games is top 3. Open world aspect, that's great. First time in a Pokemon game. Wow, Game Freak like only took you this long. I'm a big fan of a lot of the new Pokemon designs. The character designs, also top tier. The music, they got fucking Toby Fox. I've never played Undertale and I know his name. I mean, I haven't mentioned it yet, but the biggest issue that easily comes to mind when people talk about these games is the performance. Like, there is just zero reason why we are playing a game at 1 FPS in 2024. It's not a Nintendo Switch issue. It is a Game Freak issue, because the Nintendo Switch can handle Breath of the Wild, the Xenoblade games, fucking Monster Hunter Rise. Like, there's just zero reason for Scarlet and Violet to be running like fucking dog. If it wasn't for those issues, the game could have been number 1, especially with the DLC. But yeah, I think I'm fairly satisfied. Whoops. Fairly satisfied with this list. I am gonna be making some changes just for the clickbait though, so